So we're now going to make a start on building our first building, and our first building is going to be the single road engine shed that we're going to build. And what you're going to need for this is you're going to need, well, let me take you down, just going to show you down. Hopefully this is going to work out well, because I'm testing out some new angles on the tripod, and I'm hoping that this is going to be really good for you to see. Yeah, that's it. So those are the two edges, right? So there you go. So that gives you reference. So this is the A1 piece of card. Haven't done anything with it. This is our template that we had from before. And what we're going to do is simply make our building out of this one piece of card. And the first thing to do is to put a tab on the end, which is how I always start, because this is your first starting point. And this tab is essentially where you glue to. It's not actually part of the building, but this is where you glue to, but it's very important that you include the tab, and it's always the first thing to start with. So if I go to all I need for my tab, is, hopefully you can see it, I'm right in the corner, good. Just want to try and keep an eye on things. So basically, all I want is a 1 centimetre start. Now, it is important to note that the building starts from the horizontal position. So don't start it from the vertical position, because then the building won't fit. And you'll see, and there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that to you. So I'm just starting, like I said, this is the complete A1 card that I've got. And the first thing I'm doing is just marking a 1 centimetre tab all the way through the card. Unfortunately, because this card is bigger than my sort of workspace, it does sort of cause a bit of an issue, but I can work around it. It's not a big deal. But this top part isn't really that needed anyway. So hopefully you can see that the first thing I've done is just put a 1 centimetre line all the way down, because that is our reference point. So now we can start putting the building in. So this is our template, and it's always good to check it. It's 11.5. Right, so it's 11.5 centimetres across. So that's the 11.5 centimetres between here and here. So we're going to put that in now. So that's 11.5. Let's mark that on there. We then mark out the length. So we've marked out one of the ends. We now need to mark out the length. And the length of that is going to be, we said 14 centimetres approximately. Sorry, 14 inches, I should say, what we're talking about, 14 centimetres. So there it is, so there's 14. So it's, let me pull that out a bit more, give myself a bit more room. So that's 14. So that will be one of the sides. Then we need to put in the other end. Which is another 11.5 centimetres. Just double check. Always good to double check if you're not sure or can't remember. So that's another 11.5 centimetres. And then we have 1 centimetre, and that will be the tab for the other end. And you'll see what I mean with that. So what I've done here, and I know you might not be able to see it, but as I start drawing it in, you'll be able to see what I've done. Basically what I've done is put the tab at one end, which is where your starting point is. Then you've got your end, which is down there. And then we have one side, and then we have the other end, and then we have another tab. So the other thing to do now is to mark out the height. And the height was 12.5 centimetres. The height is 12.5 centimetres, right. So we're now going 12.5 centimetres. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. That's 12.5 centimetres there. 12.5 centimetres here. 12.5 centimetres here. Have I done this right? Let me just check. Yes, done this. For a minute I thought that one might have been 13.5 centimetres. And then we've got 12.5 centimetres. There. And 12.5, so just past that. Right. So, to make sure I've got a straight line, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this on the floor actually, because I think it'll probably be better, because then it sits flat on the, and I can make some proper flat lines. So just bear with me a second. Right, so we're on the floor at this bit because basically it makes it easier for me to draw the lines. Now what I'm going to do is, to make life easier, is I'm going to do the same on the other side. And then that way I know that all the lines are in the right place. So if I spin this around, the other side, we have, yeah, make sure you can see that. This bit's the most awkward bit because we're still working with a full piece of card. So just make sure that that's on. Right, so from there, so we've got 11.5 centimetres from there. Then we have the 14 inches, which is where we need this one. Basically, it's a foot for the loco plus an extra inch margin either side. So that will allow for stuff like the closing of the doors if you wanted to, or the couplings, to make sure you clear the couplings. That kind of thing. So that's that. And then we have 11.5 centimetres here, plus 1 centimetre there. So now this is going to start, all these little dots that I'm making and all these marks that I'm making are going to start to come to shape now, as you start to see them. In fact, I'll do it off the mat because I haven't got a big enough mat. because that is the biggest one they do. Right, so there we go. So that line there, that little mark there will join that mark there. Then we've got another little mark there and another one there. So now you can see where I've been making all these little dots, where I've been putting them, because now you can clearly see all the lines of what I'm doing. So this here, this side here, becomes surplus to requirements. So what we'll do with that is, just to make our lives a little bit easier, we're going to get rid of that now, because we don't need that. And if we do, then I've made a terrible mistake. Right, so now, just before I do it, this is for a single road engine shed. So obviously the bigger you've got your, if you had a double road, you'd probably come up to here, then it obviously the less length that you get out of it. So just bear in mind when you're using this technique. God damn you, it slipped. Right, okay, so that bit now, it's not currently needed. So like I said, you can make it longer, but obviously this is what I need for my purposes. And again, it will make my life easier. So we've now got like I said, the two tabs. Sorry, let's just show you that. Got the two tabs, one there, the two ends, and then you've got the wall. And then to make the whole building and the roof, we'll be layering on top of this side here. If we started on this side, we wouldn't have had enough space to fit in the two ends plus the side of the wall there. So that's why we have to work from horizontal up rather than from the vertical side. So the next thing to do is to put the wall in. And hopefully you'll be able to see that, what I'm doing. So here I've already marked out one of the walls. So that wall is there. Then what I need to do is put the apex of the roof in. Now, obviously this is up to you, but from my point of view, I just want a shallow roof, a shallow apex. So what I need to do is, if I just show you sort of up a bit more up close and personal. I've got the wall, one of the side walls, and the two ends, two tabs. So at this point, I need to mark out the apex. So basically, this is the 11.5 centimeters that you divide by 2 to make out the middle of the end, and then just add 1 centimeter for the apex, which I'll show you in a minute. So that is right, so we need 5.7, which is about there, something like that. plus 1 centimetre, which is there, plus 1 centimetre on this side, draw a line there, and then draw a line there, and then all you're doing then is now if I just show you what I've just done, see, you can hopefully see that I've marked out the apex here, and basically that's finding out the centre of the line there, centre of the build of the end, and then added 1 centimetre and then marked out basically connecting the dots really to create the apex. Now obviously if you wanted a more steeper angle, then you can make it 2 centimetres, 1.5, but for the purposes of the building that I'm doing, I want just 1 centimetre, so it's a nice shallow angle, and I've got to do the same at this end. And then another centimetre this end, another centimetre this end, that will give us that line, and then that will give us the centre of the building there. And then you just connect those 2 dots together. So I'm hoping that you can see that we've connected, that we basically got one end of the wall, plus the tab, plus 1 wall, and then we've got the other end plus a tab. So that's where we're starting at the moment. So the next thing I want to do is add the roof to go up and over just the ends. Now, the ends are 11.5 across, but when I do the roof, I'm going to do it as 11.7 as opposed to 11.5. And the reason for this is because when you fold the card over, up and over itself, you have to allow for the card to compensate for the card bending over, and it will become short. So by giving it a couple of extra millimeters, you're basically, you're not losing it, is what I'm saying it. Because otherwise the card, when you bend it over, might be too short because you haven't allowed for the curve, because it's curving outwards as opposed to curving inwards. So this will be our roof. And we will mark out that's what it was. Right. So 5 point, 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 5 Yeah. So I'm just double checking my maths. Should be. I can't really use this one because the lights have faded on my other one. Yeah, that is right. So, in theory, this line that I'm now making down here is the roof line. So here, I don't know if how well you can see it, whether it comes up, but this block here is the roof. This line here in the middle represents where I'm going to be folding it. And then we need to do another one for the wall on the other side, and then that'll be the building complete. Which is, again, let me just double check the maths. I've got it at 12.5, so that's what that is. 12.5. We now have 12.5 here. And then that is actually about right on there. Okay. So this is where it starts to get a bit scary. So this bit here we don't need. So again, we're going to trim that off. This is when we start really sort of seeing how well I've done this. Yeah, that's done. So that's another piece of card that we've trimmed down. So we're slowly whittling it down. And then the next thing we need to do is we're going to whittle it down some more. So and all these bits that I'm cutting at the moment are all excess pieces that we don't need. Right, so that's that piece gone. Right, so that's that. So this is sort of what we're left with at the moment. But we haven't quite finished trimming yet. because we now need to cut the apex in. And hopefully, it's not quite right yet. Right, so that's that one out. Okay, so that's that one. And then we've got the other side to do. I hope you can see all of this. Oops, that was gone as well. Okay, right. Let's take you back to the worktop and I'll show you. So let me talk you through what we've done and then hopefully you'll understand where I'm going. So this is the building. So this will be the one side of the wall. This bit in the middle is the roof, and the bit in that line there will represent where we're going to score it to fold it. And then we've got the bottom pieces, and then we've got the wraparound pieces, which are the two ends. So that's what we've got so far. And it's at this point that I should also tell you that if you've got one of these glue guns, I've got one of the smaller ones out today, just to get that warmed up, because by the time we've marked out everything else, that should be good to go. Now, before we do any scoring or anything of that nature, let me just make sure we are where we are. We want to think about the position of things. Like you have to ask yourself some questions as in, do I want to have doors and windows? And if so, where do I put them? Do I want skylights? If so, where do I put them? And it's this kind of, because it's at this point here where it's easier to get the scalpel and just mark it all out, like I've been marking all this out all along. And if I wanted to put a window here, I could just draw it in here, mark it up, and then cut it out with the scalpel like I have been cutting this out, or with a Stanley blade, to then, so you know where all the doors and windows are going to go, rather than trying to retrofit it afterwards. And that's the reason why, because whilst it's a flat piece of card and it's just sitting here flatly, it's easier to mark out where you want all the doors and windows to go. So in my case, I'm going for an offset aperture for the door, for the main loco shed door, and then afterwards what I'll do is I'll put in another separate door here for the workers to come in and out of, and maybe make it slightly bigger, so if I wanted to put a forklift in there, then the forklift can fit in there. So I might actually change that. So we'll have a little look see. Now the structure that I'm making is the structure that is based at Peterborough, but it's loosely based. So when you look at it, my building, it's designed to fit my needs. So if I try to build it exactly like what's at Peterborough, then obviously it needs to be a lot bigger, and the doors and windows would probably have to be repositioned. And if you look at it, there isn't actually much in the way of window space in these buildings. They tend to have these skylights. Now, as far as the skylights are concerned, I'm not going to bother putting any skylights in here, And the reason why I'm not going to do that is to keep the build relatively simple. And also because of the fact that this building is only 14 inches long, that by the time you put a loco in the middle here, you can quite easily see from both ends whether or not you're well within the building or not. The bigger the building you have, then obviously you don't know what's going on inside, especially if you've got a roof on top. If you've got one of those buildings where you don't put the roof on, then obviously you can clearly see what's going on inside. But if you plan on putting on a roof and you say your building's 2 feet or 3 feet long, then you don't exactly know where your stopping distance is and how far you've got to go and all the rest of it. So that's when I would possibly put some skylights into it. I did actually, on my original one, did put skylights into it, but I very rarely use that to actually see whether or not that's of any use to me. So that's why on this particular building, I'm just going to keep it relatively simple. I'm just going to just put the aperture for the loco to go into and an aperture for the, say, a forklift or something like that, and maybe a side door, and that will probably be about it, to be truthful with you. So we're sort of going for this kind of look. So I'm going to put the mark it up as a tab here, so you know, and there's a tab there, so you know. So that was 1.5, and then it was 2 inches, 5 centimeters. So I'm just doing my maths again, just making sure that I've got enough tolerances. So again, we're doing this sort of marking again like we did before when we originally started this. So that'll be 1.5 there. That'll be 1.5 from the top there. And the reason why I mark it at the top and bottom, even though I don't need it all the way through, is to have that straight edge all the way through. And then it was 5 centimeters across from that line, and 5 centimeters across from that line. Right, so, and then the height of our door was, yes, that's right, standard 7 centimeters. So that'd be standard 7 from there, and standard 7 centimeters from there. And then that will give you the aperture of the door. So if I mark that off clearly, just for my own benefit, but also for your benefit, I'll show this to you in a minute. Now, what I've decided to do is I've also decided, now I've got 5 centimeters, so that's 2.5. There is this, marks the center. That marks the center as 2.5. Now, the reason why I'm marking off the center is to make sure that when I make the extra door, the door is in the middle, and there's an even sort of spacing between the walling on both sides, and that will become apparent shortly. Because what I want to do is make enough of an aperture to basically make sure that there's that I can fit a forklift in here. So it won't be just a regular sized door, but it'll be like another a similar door to this, but slightly smaller, so I can fit a forklift. So if I want to get some goods in there, then it can go through that particular space. So if I mark out, let's say 1 there and 1 there, how does that work out? Now this I'm just doing freehand from my head now, so I'm just testing the water a little bit, but I'll show it to you in a minute. Now if I do that, and I do that, now let me, bear with me a minute. I'm not sure if you can see this at the moment, but I've just got a forklift. This is a small little Base Toys forklift, and I'm just sort of using it as a kind of to check to see the width of what I'd need. So these are the kind of things, again, you take into consideration. And the height I've got here is about, so we'll call that 4 centimeters, because then that will, double check that says 4. Okay. So there we go, we'll go with that. Right. So on this one, now I haven't done the other side yet, but just so you've got an idea of what we're doing. That's obviously for the loco. And I've made this little aperture. Now, normally I would have put a standard door in there, but I've decided just to make that slightly bigger, because in that way, if you wanted to bring a little load in with the forklift, then the forklift is definitely going to fit in that hole there that I've made, that aperture that I've made. Now, the other thing is, I'm going to recreate that on this side over here. So you can see now that I've done this side, and I've also done this side. Now, when I cut it out, it'll be probably easier for me to show you, but you need to be able to, you need to reverse what you've done on this side onto that side, because otherwise when you fold it over, the doors will be in the wrong place. And I'll show you that once I've cut it out, because you'll be able to see it once it's cut out. So as you can now see, I've now cut out the apertures for the loco and possibly for a forklift or entrance. Now, just have to remember that these ends will fold inwards, so that will go down, that one will go down. So you need to make sure that when you fold them down, that the apertures match on both ends. So that'll be on the inside, but so will that. When you fold that down, that will be on the outside, and so will that one be on the outside. So you just need to make sure that you, when you fold it down, that you've cut the apertures in the right way. So basically, this should all be now symmetrical. So you can now see where this building is going. So you've got the two ends here, you've got that one there and that one there, you've got a tab there and a tab there. You've got one side of the wall, that's the roof there, and this is the far side wall that we have to go on. And all being well, we're now almost ready to actually put, we're now actually able to put some, to fold this up and to actually put it together. But I think what I'm going to do is, before I do that, I think I'm going to put another door here. I'm going to put a door here and a door possibly over here. I'm just going to check it out on the back of the layout, just for the entrance, but I think you can use that one on there, but it's the one on the far side that I'm definitely going to put an entrance on this door here. So when you fold this one down, people on this side have got an entrance from this side of the building to get into the building if they need to. So that's, whereas on this side, they can actually get in through there. So that's what I think we're going to do. Just going to put a door here. Now, if you're not sure of scale for doors and things like that, just take your measurements, again, either from a possible building that you've got already on your layout that you can take the measurements from, or this is some doors that I've got left over from other kits and things like that, and I'm going to be using one of these doors. So basically, I'm just going to make the aperture to fit one of these doors. So that's all I'm going to be doing. So we're going to do that right now. So you can now see, I've showed you that, but I've now cut an aperture for the door. And so there's the door there and a hole for it. And then if you just put that door in there, you can see it lines absolutely perfectly. Now, obviously it's a bit difficult to tell because it's one big white piece of card, but we're now at a point now where we're going to find out whether or not this all fits together as intended, whether or not I've miscalculated it and it ends up going horribly wrong. So I guess we're about to find out together. So the thing to do is start scoring it, and then this building should start to come together. So we're going to have one deep score, and right, there you go, we started to get our first bend. Okay, so this is why it's now, before I start scoring, now's the time that you make sure you've got all your apertures and your holes and your windows, everything that you need first before you start scoring, because whilst it's flat, it's easier to do it whilst it's flat. Okay, here we go. And then we need to do the 2 tabs. Right. So we've done all the scoring now. Now it's a case of, will it go together? Oh, actually, I didn't score. I'll tell you what I didn't score. The end pieces. Right, so that's 1. 2. Okay. Right. So we've got, oh, that didn't go all the way through properly, and because it's quite narrow, the thing is you don't want to go too gun-ho, because if you score too deeply you might end up taking it off. So the idea of this is to try and keep this down to a minimum in terms of the joint. Let's see if we can. Sorry, I'm trying to. You can see this building starting to take shape now. So we've now got the 2 ends, and you can see that it lines up. We've now got to do the roof, which is going to be a bit. Oh, yeah, we got that. Now we've got to do the other side. Yep, okay. So, does it all fit? The answer is no, because I haven't folded the tabs in. Right, it's another bit you've got to be a bit tricky, got to be a bit careful with. But like I said, I didn't want to score too, because if you score too much, you might end up going all the way through, which is what you don't want. And the other thing about the tabs is to trim the tabs. And that bottom one doesn't matter, but it's actually what I'll do. Let's do that now. Because that will allow it to fold over. I don't know if you can see that, but I've just trimmed that tab over. So let me try and do this one again. Right, so can I fold this one across? Have I done this one enough? Right, there we go, right. Sorry if you can't see it. So this is basically, we've done it now. So essentially, hopefully, this will all fit as intended. And it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Excellent. That actually fits. Now, as you can see, this is the building here. And you can see that the purpose of the tabs, there's a tab there. The purpose of the tab, so you can glue to it, so you can hold the building together. So that's why you need to do the tab, which is why the tab is always the most important thing of the building when you first start, to stick that in first. And then as you can see, that's how the building's going to look. So let's have a look at that. Let's start gluing it in. So what I'll do is I'll use my glue gun, which has been going for the last 10-15 minutes or so. And these glue guns are relatively cheap. You get them from Hobbycraft or somewhere like that. I think I paid £5 for that. Right, so that's all. Right, that's like that. That is like so. And the thing about the glue guns is it goes off instantly. But the other thing about glue guns is that I have to make you aware of is careful with your fingers, because your fingers can get burnt, as I have found out on many occasions. So be very, very sort of careful with it. And the other thing is, I'm just going to put a bead on here. And run a bead along the inside. As well. And we'll do the other side. So let me just do the other one. Can you see? Hopefully you can see it. Nice thing about this is it is literally just an instant thing. It just takes straight away. No messing around. And what I'll do is run a bead along the inside. And I'll do the same along this side as well. And then run a bead along the inside of the roof. And here is your building. Now, at the moment, it it might look a bit bulgy, but once you start adding the layers of card or plasticard or however you're going to do it, this building will really stiffen up just like the other ones. And I'm just going to run this bead of glue along here. And you can sort of see the purpose of now you can see why I've added the extra couple of millimeters to the roof, because once you fold it over, you lose a bit because you're going up and over, so you lose a mil or two on the cut. So that's why I add just a couple of millimeters extra. And as you can see now, this is the building now. Now this will go towards the window, and then this side will have the 2-lane one right next to it. So I'm going to leave it here, and the reason why I'm going to leave it here is because you've now kind of got the basic idea of how to make a single road, either loco shed, engine shed, whatever you want to call it, and you can see how easy it does go together. It does take a little bit of planning and thought, but it's nothing that difficult, to be honest with you. And you've got a nice sturdy building. And in my case today, this building hasn't actually cost me anything, because like I said, I was given the card for free by my local art shop. Now once you start adding the plastic card or another layer of cards, it will stiffen up, but it is stiff as it is. Like I said, I've shown it to you as this building that I'm making here. The other ones were built in the exact same way. So join me for the second building using foam board, and I hope you've enjoyed and have a good idea of how you make your own loco shed. Any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will get back to you. Bye for now.